Hey there, it's Jane with PositivelyJane.net. Thanks so much for stopping by. I have been challenging myself lately to see how many cards I can make out of one main die or one main stamp set. So with St. Patrick's Day right around the corner, I grabbed these Tailored Expressions Shamrocks Stamps and Stencil combo. It's one stamp with two stencils, and they also have a coordinating stamp set with sentiments on it that I used as well. So I made 4 cards. I made a shaker card. I did some stitching on this card. And again, they all use the same stamp and stencil combo. I also added a big scripty hello die as well. So let me show you what I did to make these cards. I had so many ideas and had so much fun. So this is a combo. You stamp the stems on the clovers, and then you use the 2 different stencils to add your color. Now, I love their mini strip sentiments because they have these matching dies, and you do one stamp, and then you can cut out all the sentiments at once and put them in a little drawer so you have sentiments for a future use. The Impression Obsession has some really cute shamrocks, so I ordered these as well. And I will link everything in my YouTube description below, and please check out the blog post if you want to see some close-up photos. Gina K Glitz Glitter Gel in the color Iridescent is one of my favorite things to use in my craft room, and I'm going to use that again today. So I grabbed my well-loved Misty and took out the Misty mouse pad because this is a thick rubber stamp, and I'm putting it in the corner of my Misty. And then I have my, I thought I had my cardstock cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. It turns out it was not, but cut your cardstock to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and let me show you how I get it lined up. So I put my stamp in, get it lined up, and I put my cardstock on my stamp, and then I close my Misty upside down. Oh, and that's the Simon Says Stamp Grid Transparency. It's one of my favorite tools in the craft room, and I'll show you what I use it for today. Anyhow, I'm using Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink. It's one of my favorite inks. It's also the one that's the juiciest. All of my ink pads are dry, and I can't get ink refills right now due to COVID. And if you're wondering why it's bouncing, it's because my camera is sitting on my desktop. So this is just a dry erase board eraser that I use to apply equal pressure, and I did stamp this 2 times. I will let you know I should have stamped it twice. I always stamp my backgrounds twice because you just never know. So stamp it twice just in case. Now, I don't know if you can see, but there's like little scratch marks in there of the shape of the stems of the shamrocks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some tape on the back of my stamp piece, and I'm going to line up those little scratch marks with the stems of the shamrocks. And now I know my stencil is lined up. Now I swatch all of my inks, and I have free ink. You can download every single one and print them out, and I've updated it for 2021. So please, there's a link in the description below. Go on and grab these. They are free. So I'm grabbing my ink blending brushes, and I always clean them off on a cloth just to get the old ink on there that was on there. And greens are used greens, and the blue uses blues, and the red uses reds. I wasn't sure how dark I wanted it to be. I kept peeking, and I did decide that I really wanted it dark. So after I did this first stencil, then I put the second stencil on, and now I'm grabbing that Glitz Glitter Gel, and I'm smushing some ink onto my craft table or my glass media mat, and I'm turning that iridescent into green. It is one of my favorite ways to create color when it pertains to glitter gels. I can't afford to buy all the colors, so I make my own. So when I was all done with this, I had a whole bunch left, and this is when I realized, oh, I wish I had a second background. This stuff dries really, really quickly, so you're not going to believe how fast I went and made another background. But this time I stamped with the other stencil, and I put the glitter gel on top, and I got a much darker color. And I will show you that in just a second. The first thing you need to do is clean off your stencils, your work surface, your tools. And the one on the left is the one where I stamped the stencil, and the one on the right is where I just put the iridescent gel on it, so it's a lot lighter. This is how I use my Simon Says Stamp Grid Transparency when I have a dirty stamp and I don't want to clean it. I put it on top of my stamp, put my cardstock on top, turn it over, and now I have a clean cardstock. I just thought I'd throw that in there. I wanted to add a little bit of highlights to these shamrocks, so I grabbed a little mini dauber and just dipped it into some darker color ink. It's Concord & 9th Evergreen. And let me show you, you could just have a little bit of highlights there, and I think it just adds a little bit more dimension. So I made two, out of craft cardstock, I made two backgrounds the exact same, and I grabbed my Simon Says stamp A2 thin frames, and all this does is, as you can see, cuts a little tiny frame out. Now you can save that, I discarded it, and the beauty about this is you get a little bit more dimension on your card. So I grabbed a matching card for the card base, and I glued on the outside frame. I have a whole bunch of colored foam in my stash, so I thought I'd use my colored foam, and I popped up the insert on the colored foam, and I'm lining it up and making sure I have an even little opening inside, and I'll put something heavy on top to dry. I have a big, huge acrylic block, and sorry about my back and my head. So now I'm going to stamp this really cute stamp set. I love, again, way Taylor Expressions does this. So I stamped it on the same craft cardstock, and I stamped it twice in that same Lawn Fawn jet black ink. And then what I'm going to do is you line up those squares. You see the squares on the right and the left, you line those up, and when it comes out, you've got all these beautiful, beautiful stamped and even sentiment strips. So I knew I wanted to use this big hello die, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I wanted to add some glitter. So I have all this different cardstock in my stash, and I'm like, well, let me see which one do I want to use. So I looked at the greens, and I decided that the very first green that I showed you is the one I'm going to use. And again, I will link everything below. So I cut one hello out of glitter, I cut 3 out of green, and then I decided I did not like the color of that green hello. So I don't know if you know this, but you can actually ink up your glitter cardstock as well. And you can't really see it on the camera, but you can see that left L is a lot darker than the other one. It just took some of the brightness off the hello. So I glued it on the middle of my card, and then I'm trying to figure out, well, which sentiment strip do I want to use? And I decided to back it with a little bit of green, and I'm not sure what color green I used. I have so many scraps of cardstock, I just grabbed my scraps. Used my T-ruler, lined it up, made sure it was straight, and you'll have a close-up of that card in a second. When you edit videos, you just never know. Sometimes my head's in it, and everything gets cut off. But I'm using these fab frames. Who makes these fab frames? These are by Paper Smooches, and this is one of my favorite things because of the holes. So I thought I would do a little bit of stitching on these. So I grabbed my container for my floss. I picked out my green. I put some floss on a needle, and I just tape it down with a little bit of purple tape. It does hang over, and I will cut it down to size when we're all done with the project. And I'm just going up and down, up and down, up and down. That's all I'm doing. Totally out of frame, up and down, up and down. And when I get to the end, I just tape it down. I think stitching the whole thing took me about 5 minutes, but I really like the way it looks, and I think it looks really, really nice. So I decided I was going to make a shaker card. So I cut the green cardstock out of the Hero Arts Infinity rectangle die, a little bit larger than that fab frame. I also cut some shamrocks out of gold glitter cardstock, and I keep my dies in a bowl so I don't lose them. So the first thing I do when I'm doing a shaker card where I have a pattern background that needs to match the front is I glue that down first. So I'm putting my frame around my green cardstock, fiddling with it just a little bit just to see exactly where I want it to be. And I already have the glue on that one, and I lined it up. My head was in the way, so I cut my head out, made sure it was lined up, and I glued it on down. I put a piece of acetate on the back of the fab frame where the stitching was, and I added some foam. Now I wish I would have added 2 layers of foam, and you will see why in just a second. Hindsight is always 20/20. I grabbed a whole bunch of different greens and golds from my stash, put them all down in the middle, put this on top, and then I'm seeing that it's not shaking as well as I would like it to shake. It still shakes, but not as freely as I would like it to shake. I think it's because I put those gold shamrocks in there. So I wanted to add a few shamrocks on the outside, so I put the dauber on those, darkened up the inside of the shamrock, kind of glued them down on the front of my shaker card. Just taking my time, putting little dots of glue on. Got to be careful because glue will ease out onto your acetate and then make a big old mess. So just put a little bit on there. And then I added that my pot of gold sentiment. So now we're getting back to these that I made before with the Glitz Glitter Gel. Say that 5 times fast. I also swatch all of my cardstocks and envelopes, and I will link down below on how I do that. I'm a big craft room organization. Actually, organization is my jam for everything. So I grabbed the one that I thought matched, popped a piece of foam on the back of that, and just set it aside to dry. And when it was dry, I also stamped those same sentiment strips on white cardstock with green ink. I cut the hello out of green and put 3 white behind it, and I put my sentiment strip on top of that. I had a little bit of extra dimension behind it because it was falling behind, and that finished card. And I will show you again all these finished cards at the end. I'm adding this really great gold shimmer pen on top of it, and for the life of me I can't think of it, but I will link it in the description below. And the reason it gets a little disjointed, the video, is my head gets in it, and you really don't need to see the back of my head, so that's kind of why I kind of cut things off. So I had all of these envelopes, and I thought, well, let me put the sentiments on the envelopes as well. So this is that shaker card, shaking it up. You can see it's not shaking up great, but it shakes up good. We've got the stitching, we have the background with the green rectangle, and then I put the sentiment on the envelope. I just thought that was fun to do. I glued it down really well so it wouldn't get stuck in the mail machine. This is the one where we used the A2 thin frame. We have a little gap there. We popped it up on some foam. We added that green glitter hello, and we stamped it all on craft cardstock. This is that background I made where I just added the green to the Glitz Glitter Gel. And you can see how the exact same dies and the exact same stamp set, you get totally different cards. And I put some Nuvo Aqua Shimmer Pen on top of that hello to give it a little more shimmer. And then this is the one where I put the green behind it and I put the glitter gel on top. So here's an example of all 4 of my cards. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I hope you can learn some things on the Positively Jane channel. And if you like it, please, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell because you never know what I might be showing up on YouTube. Thanks so much.